Welcome, everyone, to August meeting with our specialist for this month, which happens to be Bill Beausay. I'm really excited about this. Hopefully you guys saw last week's presentation where he showed his nerves of steel for real estate. And this week we have him to be able to answer your questions, which we did get some sent in ahead of time as well. But he's here to answer your questions and help you get past the struggles within doing real estate deals. So with no further ado, Bill, are you there?
I am here, Elsa, and
All
I just
right.
it's good to be here. Thanks for having me. In fact, I popped up the sign here because I thought this is for a lot of people at every point. Everybody's real estate career goes through moments like this, right? Where you're not sure what you're supposed to do, and you're not, and you're confused, and you don't have answers, and you freeze. And if there's anything that I wanted to do with the time we spent together is just give you an alternative to being frozen, and the real alternative is not being unfrozen, but going forth with confidence and fun and a smile. It's like we were talking about, Elsa. I mean, there's this business can be such fun if you don't take it too seriously. And there's a lot in the business, of course, that can be intimidating with all the the paperwork and lawyers and regulations and expectations of people and all this kind of stuff. It can be very intimidating, but there is a confident, focused, rather easy way through it if you get your mind right. And so I'd be happy to. I've got a little bit of a presentation I can do here, or we can just throw this thing open to questions based on what I did last time. Also, we can do it either way. If people have questions and want to roll, we can do that. I loaded up a couple of videos here that we can watch that might be helpful. So we can just sort of do what people want to do, give them what they need.
Yeah, let's see. Does anybody have any questions that they want to start with?
Yeah, this is Brandon. I'm sorry, Brandon Wilkes. I had a question, but it was related, particularly, around lease purchase. I'm not sure if that's something that. Are we talking about overall kind of?
Brandon, I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you. What I've done, when I've done this program in the past, and people come in and call in with technical questions about real estate, I usually don't handle those. But if you want to do this, I'll tell you, I work with a couple of the best real estate investors in the business. And if you wanted to just sign up, Brandon, because one of the things we're going to, Elsa hasn't said this yet, but we're going to offer free coaching. If you want to sign up in there and just behind your name, just put in parentheses real estate, I'll have one of my investor partners get a hold of you to answer all your questions about that. Does that help?
All right, cool. Thank you.
Is that cool?
Yeah,
sure.
It is.
Sure.
Yeah, when we're going to be offering free coaching, so we're going to give out the link in order to sign up for that. It's going to be open for, what was it, the first 10 people, Bill?
Yeah, let's do it that way.
Okay. And so at the end of the call, we're going to let you know how to go ahead and sign up for that, so that you can get that half an hour free time with Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Awesome.
Does anybody else have? Yeah. One of the things that happens. I know you had a couple questions that called in, Elsa, but I want to show you something here. I get asked a lot. What's the difference between one of the questions that came in was just what are some of the takeaways from doing the Nerves of Steel program? And they said, in fact, one of the questions I hear a lot is this whole question: what's the difference between mindset and MindRev? I got like a 1.5-minute video, or I guess 2-minute video if you want to watch it, that kind of explains the difference. Would that be worthwhile?
Probably, yeah.
It's let me just run this thing.
The whole part in even doing good deals and closing on your deals is having the right mindset.
Absolutely. Except that I take it a step further, and MindRev takes it just one step further into the action phase. Which, by the way, I would like to talk about closing. If anybody has closing questions, because you know what? Closing is such a huge part of this deal. In fact, it's the thing that scares most people at the beginning. They're fearful to start it up, and they're fearful to close them up and button them up and get them done. Let's just watch this video real quick, and then perhaps this will prompt some questions.
Don't have much audio. Yeah, we can't hear it. Yeah, Bill.
Can you hear it okay?
No, it's silent. Just barely hear your voice.
Do you want me to crank it up louder?
Yeah, because you can barely hear your voice.
Well, you know what? Is this, I don't know. I guess I can crank it up on my side. Does that mean you're going to be able to hear it on yours? I wonder if it's the system is muting it, because I've got it cranked up about as high as I can get it here.
Yeah, because we can just barely hear your
That's okay. I'll explain to you what it is. How's that? It's probably
okay.
easier that way. The difference between a mindset is getting yourself ready to go do something. All right, like you pump yourself up with music or motivational phrases, or everybody has the success posters around, and getting yourself in the mindset to go do it. MindRev is taking action in the moment, like when you actually have to pick up the phone and call somebody, when you actually have to get out of your car and walk up and knock on the door, when you actually have to get up and walk across the restaurant and introduce yourself to somebody, when you actually have to ask an investor for money. Getting yourself pumped up gets you to the point where you can do something. MindRev is, well, it's what this panel says here. You learn automatic, unconscious reactions that basically, when you get ready to say, I'm going to go do any one of these things, you just move. And you move really unconsciously, very quickly. In fact, so fast, as I say in the video. By the way, that video is up on YouTube, I think, now, if you want to go look at that. But you move so fast that you don't even know it. Suddenly, you look back and you say, "Whoa! I just walked up and asked this guy if he wanted to sell me his house, and I didn't even feel anything. I just took off and went." And I'll tell you, when you're at that point in your career, when you've mind-revved your brain to the point where you can do that, man, I'm telling you, look out, because you're going to be a terror, and it's you can get yourself to that state. So it's one thing to get yourself psyched up. It's another thing to take the action. And that really is that's the main difference. I guess the question I'd ask, I've got that other video, that spooling video I did last time that nobody could hear. I've got that as well, if anybody on the line wants to see that, because that takes you through the process of that's just the first level process of learning MindRev, or teaching your brain to move and act automatically. It turns out that's connected up with a couple ideas I have about closing deals as well. I guess, we can take this anywhere the audience, you folks want to go with it. So you let me know, we'll do it. Elsa, do you have any questions that people called in and asked or wrote in for you?
Yeah, let's go over a couple questions here. Basically, what's the difference between videos and virtual online training?
Well, that's really good. That is a good question, because I know last week I talked about my Lightspeed system. I utilize it's a system. It's actually, I got a video here that it shows the landing page. It's what I like to say. It's kind of the difference. This is the landing page for my training center. When you sign up for Nerves of Steel for real estate investors, you're going to sign up you'll come to a page that'll look like this, as the training center. It's not videos. What it is, it's interactive. It's video based, but it's interactive online training. So when you sign up for this, you'll get a year's access to this library of training materials. And it takes you through step by step, and it's interactive. Like I like to say, I'll be with you 24/7 for a year. And, it's funny, Elsa, I watch MMA fighters, right? Well, I tell you, watching the videos of these guys does not make you an MMA fighter. Watching videos of great people doing these great things does not make you do that. What does make you do that is immersive, interactive training, where somebody is there walking you through. There's tests in this. So what happens is you'll go through one of these interactive online videos, and then you take a test on it, and I get the report. Actually, I find out how you did on it, and I can step you through and lead you to the place where you develop talent. That's why I like to say, in fact, that one video I showed earlier, that it happens all of a sudden over a long period of time. You'll go through this training and you'll do this several times. We'll go back and forth, and suddenly you realize that your brain is starting to do things without you even knowing it. And you'll develop tremendous confidence, tremendous focus, action-taking ability, and it comes upon you very fast. But it's because you're not just watching videos, but you're interacting with me on it. That's the big difference.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is, and that's why it's so powerful, because this is not, this is not motivational videos, believe me. I'm going to train you. We're going to train your brain how to act in key money-making moments. We train your brain to do it, and it's cool. I'll tell you, nothing is cooler when you start doing stuff, and it's like you look back and you say, wow, that used to scare the crap out of me, and I just did that like it was nothing. That is a pretty fun feeling.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You feel more accomplished that way.
Well, you do, and it's like I like to say, I think that the most powerful. I might have mentioned this last week. The most powerful state that you can be in is really feeling nothing. So you just go do it. You just pick up the phone and call someone. It's like in one of the training modules, I talk about in fact, as we go into this, because I go deeply into this, that you make calls every single day, and you're not scared at all. You know how to make a phone call with feeling nothing. You know how to walk up to a house and knock on a door and not feel anything. You probably go up to your mom or your dad's house and knock on their door, and you don't feel scared. So you're capable of doing that. How do you teach your brain to do that to a total stranger? How do you teach your brain to do that when you're going to make a call and try to make a pitch for money, or you're going to make a pitch to buy someone's house or sell a house or whatever? Having that same level of emotional dampening where you don't feel anything, you just move. That's the place you want to be.
Absolutely. Well, we got another question here. They waste a lot of time between when they get the lead and actually taking action on the lead.
Mm-hmm.
Forgetting it and possibly analyzing it and just trying to work through it before actually calling and doing anything. You have any ideas on that?
Yeah, here we go. Just look at this. The Nerves of Steel package is real. Look, everybody has that problem. What I like to say is everything between the time you get the lead and you may make the phone call, it's all head trash, right? And you're talking yourself out of it, and you're talking yourself in circles, and you talk, and you get scared, and you call your mentor and ask him if it's, if you should jump on this, what you should do, versus just getting the lead and like an instant beeline to the phone to see if it's for real or not and exploring it. My goal in the Nerves of Steel system is to get you to take action like that quickly. And the 1 year, I put the Nerves of Steel package up here because we're going to get you to do that. You are going to learn to do. You work with me, I'm going to get you there. And we have a 1 year to do it. There's 1 year unlimited access to these trainings, plus group training calls that we're going to do, these Power Punch audios. You are going to punch through this. And short of actually training you how to do the MindRev thing, and we could go back if you want to and go through that spooling thing, because actually the spooling thing is one of the first things you learn in the course to take action immediately on those leads. The idea, of course, is to have so many leads you don't know what to do with them, but don't wait. And the idea is just how do you set the switches in your brain to go bang? They get a lead and you just go boom and you go. That's what you want to do, and that's where I get you. And it's a process. And yep, if you work with me, and we'll do this live. I mean, those monthly group training calls will be probably a lot more than monthly. We'll do it more often, and I'm available. I want you to be successful. We're going to get you there. I hope that answers that question.
I think so. Now, somebody else says they just get nervous when it's time to close. What suggestions do you have on that? Anybody that's out there listening right now, think about that. Let me ask you this. Do you have a closing system?
Do you have a system to close people and button up these deals? When I talk about close, by the way, I'm not talking about the paperwork where you're sitting down closing a deal there that way. I'm talking about when you get someone to commit to something and you've got a verbal agreement that you put in writing and sort of an offer sheet or whatever, however you do it. And this can be whether you're wholesaling a property or you're buying or selling anything. It doesn't matter. It's how do you close the deal so you can do the paperwork and take a check to the bank. If you don't have a closing system, you need one. And let me tell you the thing, Elsa, that scares the crap out of every investor I've ever known when they're first getting started, and that is dealing with objections. You've gone, and this can happen in any phase, in fact, in any phase of real estate deals, but any phase of life. If you're selling something, you're going to get objections. How do you deal with objections? This is my advice to everybody as they get going in the real estate business. And this is true whether you've got zero experience, you've done this 100 times. You need to have a list of the top 10 objections that you expect to hear. The top 10 objections, because I'll tell you, it is always these objections that scare people. If you went into a deal and you knew you weren't going to have any objections at all, you wouldn't be afraid. What happens is you let your mind run away on you. I mean, you literally let it run off into the future, and you think of all the horrible things that can happen. If you remember the story last week of the girl that, she thinks what she has to do, then she thinks of everything that can go wrong, and she starts to line them up in her brain and go over them and over them and over them. What you need to do is you need to have in your brain the 10 top objections you expect to have, which, by the way, you're probably only going to hear 3 or 4, really. I mean, that's really all there is, right? Then it can be anything, but there's going to be probably those. And then you need to now do this. Write this down. Everybody's listening right now. Write down 4, what I guess what I would call is very, very simple, sensible replies or rebuttals to those 10 objections. Simple, sensible rebuttals, and write them down and practice them. And as soon as you learn to do spooling, like we teach in the course, you're going to spool these things up, these sensible rebuttals. For the most part, if people close deals, but people get closed on the logic of a deal, sometimes the emotion as well. But the bottom line is what you can come up with is very, very sensible rebuttals, and you need to write them down and you need to practice them over and over till they are second nature and completely automatic. I suggest you work on these rebuttals with a tape recorder, your phone, do them in front of a mirror. Work on them till these rebuttals are so automatic that you feel nothing. And you run these things over in your mind over and over and over until you develop great strength. Now, remember this. You may very, very well hear something that you never heard before when you go to do one of these closes. You may put it on your list. Why don't you just keep a running list of the objections you hear, and for each one of them, come up with 4 sensible rebuttals and practice these things so you can do them in your sleep. Now, listen, sometimes the truth of the matter is sometimes people, even though your deal makes all the sense in the world, they won't do it. It's because sometimes there can be X factors involved here that, if you didn't talk to them and ask them enough questions, maybe you didn't actually find out everything that was going on in their life, and you didn't find out everything that was going on in the deal. So they held something back from you, information you needed to go forward, so you didn't find things out. I would suggest to you that at least getting started, why don't you just think of the objections in your mind that you expect to hear, and then come up with 4 or 5 really good, solid rebuttals to each of those. You're going to have to be a little bit creative. And look, this might take you a few weeks to do this. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about the time. Get that list done and practice it. Practice those rebuttals until you can do them in your sleep. That usually ends up being very, very helpful for most people that are getting going.
And I have a suggestion along those lines as well. One thing my husband was doing is he wrote down the objections and the rebuttals and put them on a piece of plywood and hung it up in front of his desk. So he'd go over it over and over again with each call, and look up and go over it to remember exactly how to say it until he was trained on how to read it and then know right away without having to look at the board.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. One thing I didn't share last time.
I would, and just pick it up.
Elsa, another idea and I've done this before when people are learning to do spooling and closing, is I'll have them write down each of those rebuttals on 3x5 cards and just run through them, like before they actually get on the call or before they go to close the deal. Run through them in your mind so you're really clear, one rebuttal to the next, to the next, to the next. People, I think I read a statistic, something to the effect that people buy like 2% on the first time. And then it goes up dramatically the more, up to, I think it takes sometimes seven touches before they will actually make a decision.
And that's what I've heard is about 7 times.
It's about 7. So, there you go. So get 7 rebuttals, good ones, and get them so they're so automatic. Put them on 3x5 cards, or as your husband did, Elsa, put them up on a wall. Make them a part of your brain. Literally make them a part of your brain. In fact, one of the things we do in the course is I'll show you how to do this visually, with your brain, so that these rebuttals literally come in before your brain. You can see them. You almost don't have to use the card. They just come to your mind. And then, I'll tell you, once you're there, then you can sell, man. I'll tell you, you can really sell and have a lot of fun, because you can feel tremendous confidence in the fact that they really, really, they can't say anything that you haven't heard already, because you practiced them so many times with yourself. So I trust that worked well with your husband, Elsa?
Oh, yeah. He was enjoying it because, he'd gone through trainings like most people do, and they get the manual and everything's in the book. And, well, he didn't want to have to go rooting through stuff to figure things out, so he just put it all up on the board.
Yeah.
It worked out beautifully.
Man, that's great. That's just that's wonderful.
Oh, yeah. Now, that kind of goes into this question, because that was my spouse. When your spouse won't take action or doesn't really stand behind what you're doing, what do you do?
If they don't, I guess it's two different problems. One is if they are with you and you're together in business together, and they won't take action, versus they're against you or are not participating with you, and they won't take action. If there are two different kinds of problems, but I'll tell you what, I see this happening a lot with couples that said, they're going to start their side business and they're going to flip houses, for example. But one of the spouses won't go out and get deals going, or they won't, try and locate properties. They won't take the action necessary to create that. I'm a big believer in if you're going to have a team, it needs to work just like a regular partnership. And that is, you guys need to get your heads together. One person does one thing does another. Now, let me tell you something. I've seen this work a lot, that even on deals that fail, by the way, this should help make a failure kind of like take the sting out for you. I suggest that the other half of the spouse follow up with that, with the failure, and call the homeowner, the buyer, the investor, whoever it is, and say, what did we do wrong? Me and Jack here are partners, and he obviously screwed up because you don't want to do the deal. I'm sorry we failed you. What can we do to make this thing? What can we do to learn from this going forward? And I can't tell you how many times just doing a follow-up call like this, and one spouse can do it once. It's kind of like good cop, bad cop. The one person can't get anything going, the other spouse comes in and says, what do we do wrong? How could we do better next time? We really want to serve you better. By the way, on that second call, it really is a good idea to ask for referrals, because they'll usually give it to you. I'm telling you, these people have never, ever, ever had a team call them, ever. And when you do that, you instantly stand out. So I would set this up with the couple, Elsa, to answer that question. I'd set this up ahead of time, that if you're going to do this together, that one person takes them high, the other takes them low, if that makes sense. That if one person
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I've seen in some situations where the husband's all gung-ho, ready to do this, but then the wife is not quite on board and kind of on the fence, and he has to prove it before she's on board with it.
Yeah. One of the things I know, and it's probably because, in my past, I was a professional counselor. I did a lot of marriage counseling. And the key is to get everybody in the same room together. And I'll tell you, that's just one of the things that gets offered here in the package, is the opportunity for everybody to come in a big group. We can talk about what we're doing, what we're trying to do as a group. And if one spouse is just not a believer, sometimes it's helpful to just sit down and say, just because you're not a believer, are you gonna stop this, or are you just not going to participate? There's a big difference. If you've got a spouse that's actively trying to stop you, then you got some issues that you need to get fixed, man, because it's gonna be a big slog. It's gonna be tough. Most people don't have that, though. Most people don't have a spouse that says, "Look, if you do this, man, I'm gonna spike this thing. You're not gonna be successful." Most spouses say, you're a big talker. Let's see you do something. All you do is talk. And in which case, you really do need to kick it in gear and do something, not for them, but do it for yourself. Do it so, if you are not doing what you need to do, the basic blocking and tackling of this business, which is reaching out to homeowners, buyers and sellers, or, investors, or people that, doing what you need to do to learn more about specific aspects about the business, like maybe doing lease options or buy rents, or all the details of the business. You need to make sure you take care of that and go meet people. Nothing makes a spouse happier, as you know, Elsa, as we all know. Nothing makes a spouse happier than you getting a deal and taking a check to the bank. And I found that in most cases, you can get spouses on board if it becomes a team, not like a competition between each other. So, creating that teamwork is something. I don't talk a lot about that in the course per se, but we can sure talk about that in our group talk, monthly, weekly, bi-weekly talks.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
How long does it typically take to learn the nerves of steel?
Well, it's interesting. It's funny. I should pop this one up right here. That was just a lucky guess. Most people can learn this. They'll get the initial exposure to the whole system will take you. If you do it quickly, you can probably get through it in a couple of weeks. But you'll start getting talent quite quickly. But then it needs to get reinforced. It needs to get focused on. It needs to be brought to the fore. So you can learn it fairly quickly. But what you'll find is when your brain really starts to become automatic, it's like you're going to be working on this a little bit. It's kind of a lot like learning almost anything physical. You know how, in fact, I use the example. I'm assuming that a lot of us have had kids. How kids they're always trying to learn how to walk when they're first, they're 9 months, 1 year old, and they're walking around on furniture, and you think they'll never walk. And then all of a sudden they take off and walk across the room like they've been doing it their whole life. It's like that moment where it's like, you look back and you say, did they just, have you done this else? You look back and say, did they just walk across the room? And you're going to do that with yourself. You do MindRev, that's what happens. It's like you look back and you say, did that just happen? If you think about like doing learning, I don't know, yoga, or learn how to swim, you have to learn these moves. It takes you a while, and this goes right back to your question, how long does this take? It takes different brains, different times to learn the moves, but you practice them in a specific, calculated, technical way, and then pretty soon you do them without even thinking. If I asked you, to stand on a yoga move, you get down on all fours and you pick up your right hand and hold it up, and you pick up your left leg and hold it up. Well, at first you can't do that, but after a few trials, your brain learns how to do that. And then you can do it without even thinking about it. That's exactly the way this works. And suddenly you'll look back and you'll say, holy cow, man, I just made some calls. I took some action here. I'm performing like the big boys, and that's the place you want to. That's the sweet spot for MindRev.
Basically, just training your brain.
Well, it is, but we take a very, very specific path on it. And again, I teach 3 very, very specific. I think I might have a thing on here. Maybe I don't. I teach 3 very, very specific techniques. I'll share them with you right now. The first one's called spooling. We talked a little bit about that last time. Another one is called chaining, where you take a look at some of the thoughts you're having prior to the point where you get stuck, and sort of taking that apart a little bit and rearranging some of those pieces so you move through. So the mental activity right prior to you taking action becomes we smooth it out and make it work a lot better. And then the last thing I teach is something called parallax. And I mentioned this last time, and for those of you who were on the call, you remember I talked about the fact that when you think of certain things, your brain places it around you in 3D space. And I use the example, if you recall, I use the example of hearing your mom's voice. Like if right now, just listen. Can you hear your mom's voice? Just listen for her. Now, as you hear your mom's voice, and everyone's doing it right now, you can you recognize her. It's probably that voice is probably coming from a certain place around you. Maybe it's inside your head, maybe it's outside. When I hear my mom, she's always up above me in the back, and I can hear her voice just kind of whispering at me. Your brain, everybody's brain places all this stuff in different places. Parallax boils down to this. When you have a really, really bad experience that really like just freezes you, like the images of what you're going to how people are going to respond to you when you offer to buy their house, your brain puts negative stuff all in one place, and you're going to see it in that place all the time. So if I asked you right now, think of in the last couple of days a really, really scary or rough experience you had, and notice where you're looking. Notice where the sounds are coming from. Notice the feelings that well up inside of you. It's going to be that place every time. And you can move that stuff around and totally change the way you experience negative kinds of things. And you can create power spots in this 3D world around you where you place pictures, place experiences, place expectations, place voices, and you can really generate a lot of power in yourself real fast. I show you how to do all this stuff. And again, the idea is to make your brain work automatically in rough or scary situations. So you just move real fast without even thinking much about it. It's pretty cool.
All right, let's see if anybody here has questions. Well, Rick, are you there? Oh, well, let's go into this question here.
Okay. I was going to say sometime, Elsa, can I jump in on something?
Yeah.
You did make the offer about that, about the coaching calls. If anybody, sometimes people just don't want to talk about some of this stuff, like in public. Not that anybody would recognize them, but that's understandable. If you would like, you can certainly sign up. Just go to that sign up sheet that Elsa has, and we can give that information. But I'll be happy to talk through in private anything that may be bothering you. And if you have a technical real estate question, as I said, I got my real estate investor expert in the pocket, which I'll get back to you. But I also wanted to say too, before we jump too far, and these prices are, last week I gave Elsa a special code. If you get the code for both of these, in fact, I think I have it at the very end, you can get $500 off this package. And I think we're doing this for half, I think. Let me see if I can bounce through here and find this. That's the package code right there. I should put this up while I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I guess we're going to give a $200 discount on that, the standalone training. This package up here includes all that stuff as far as including the community and the regular calls and all that stuff. And then this, of course, is the standalone training. So, okay, I'll shut up, Elsa. You have more questions.
Well, and this is kind of a technical one to some degree.
Okay.
But basically, how do you change or as I always put it, flipping the switch from one mode to another? For instance, you're having a really bad day, but you've got to make these phone calls, and you can't sound like you're having a bad day. You've got to switch on that happy mode.
Yep.
How do you train your mind to just do that automatically?
Well, you know what? That is, Elsa, that is the sum and substance, I guess you could say, of MindRev training. It's about training your mind to get into states that you want. Now, it doesn't mean that you're always going to pop up and be happy, but it does mean that you exercise total choice over the states that you want. state of calmness or a state of real focus or a state of real, aggressiveness on the phone or just a state of peacefulness or anything, any state you want. The idea is to train your brain to generate these automatically. The reason most people ask that question, Elsa, is because they've never had they don't know what that's like. What they're used to having happen is their brain taking off and kind of running away from them and creating the state for them. And you're just kind of along for the ride. That's what most people do. That's why, if you recall last week, I told the story. You remember the story I told about the wine story? You remember that? And it was, it's like my wife went out to get some wine, and while she was gone, I was thinking of, like, why didn't she ask me if I wanted some wine? And then, she never asked me if I want anything, and she's rude to me, and she doesn't do anything around here. And I drove this stuff around in my mind, round and round and round, and the more it goes around, the stronger it gets. That's called spooling. So what happens, Elsa, to your question? You're having a bad day. You wake up or you get off a bad call, and you got to make another one immediately. When you do spooling training, and actually the chaining one as well, you're going to find that all you have to do is remember one or two of the key pictures, experiences that you spooled, and you'll go right back into that positive state almost instantly. And it's the weirdest thing, but you have to choose to do it. But I found with me, I'll tell you what, the more I've done MindRev myself, sometimes it happens without me even knowing it. Suddenly, I'll just find myself suddenly in a very, very happy, positive mood. And I found that for me, it happens mostly in the morning. It's kind of a weird thing. I think I think there's a biological factor to this. Sometimes people just, there are better times of the day for them. Some people are better making calls at night. Some people are better making calls in the morning. Some people are just better doing what they have to do, the hard stuff, so to speak, of their business in the afternoon. You have to decide what's the sweet spot for you and really focus on getting as much done as you can. If you have an hour of focused time that really is good for you, it's better than all day screwing around. You can get a lot done in an hour if you really hit it. And so the idea, though, and thanks for that question, Elsa, because that really is the key idea behind being trained in MindRev, that those things click on automatically. And I will get you there. I'm telling you, you get this package and join us on a regular basis, I'll get you to the point where that happens. And it is really, really exciting when that happens. This, by the way, I threw this up, Elsa. This is just the key takeaways from the program. I was thinking about this last week after I got off the call.
Where they can actually see this. Most people are actually on the phone, so if you want to...
Oh, they can't see... Oh, yeah, I'll read this. Sure, I'll read this.
Mention out these points for them.
I absolutely will. Sorry about that. For those of you who are on the phone, my apologies. Number one, and I just made a list of 10. There's probably a few more, but I'll put them on here. Number one, dramatically increases the number of offers you're going to make. As we all know in this business, if you've done it for a while, that's the heart of this, right? That's the heart of real estate investing, is making offers. Just getting out there and making offers. And you know what? You make enough offers, you're going to close some deals, you're going to make some money. Number two, everybody has a real specific area that stops them all the time. You're going to fix that specific thing that stops you, whether it's self-talk or fear or bad experience in the past or a spouse that gets in your way. We're going to deal with the exact spot that stops you. Number three, we're going to learn the skill of making sales powerful and automatic and unconscious. A lot of that training we'll be going into is more ideas about how to close these deals, how to open them and close them. That's the whole thing. You'll make bigger deals almost thoughtlessly. Suddenly you'll find yourself thinking, geez, why don't I just buy a 30-unit apartment building versus a single house? And your brain will start to run with you on that, and you'll feel really good about that, and it takes you places you may not even know. You'll join the community of really elite deal makers and closers. Another key takeaway is you learn these 3 specific tools to shape your mind. And, by the way, the mind of others. That's a big takeaway here. You will be able to, I'm going to show you how to do this in the way that you can teach others to do this, not only your partners or your spouse, but also your kids. If you looked at my stuff online, You know that I believe in young people, and I believe in helping them really do things with themselves to better themselves and give them the skills to do that. And you can be pivotal in someone's life. You'll close deals quicker with more confidence. You'll have a lot more fun. I've mentioned that a couple of times. And you'll create the specific qualities that help you make money. You'll basically have me here to help you train you 24/7 for the entire year. When you get this package, it's a 1-year access to all this. And by the way, I'm going to be adding some stuff on into the library. You'll have access to that as we go along, as I will really greatly expand some of the things that I talk about. And you'll really get what I call game-changing reinforcement, because that's really what it is. And the last thing is I will help. I'm constantly combing the world for better closing techniques that I can include in the MindRev system. Those are just 10 top takeaways that you will get going today. I like to think that everybody that does this will be making a deal within the next several weeks, because that's what it's about. That's why we're here.
Elsa, I have got a couple of questions. This is Rick.
Sure, go ahead.
Can I? Okay. Hi, sir. How are you?
I'm very good. What's your name?
Rick.
Okay, Rick. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Actually, a couple of questions that I have. So technically, this whole course is self-development and talking to the sellers combined.
Give me the last part. Self-improvement and what else?
And talking to the sellers.
You know, I got to be honest with you. No, it's actually none of that. It is self-improvement, but what I like to look at this, Rick, a little bit differently. That, you know, for the most part, part of the problem is that people are talking to themselves. So I try to, what I do is we're going to retrain your brain to operate on a different level. We're not going to talk so much about talking to yourself, but we're going to practice techniques that train your brain to move off in different areas and to move you to action, not move you to talk. So, you know, I guess, yeah, self-improvement in the sense that, you know, you're taking yourself to a higher level. But like I like to say, Rick, and I said this last week, you know, your brain is not you. Your brain is a tool that you use. So we're going to train your brain. I hope that's helpful. It involves some self-talk, but we're not going to alter your self-talk as much as we're going to alter more of the process of the things.
Like, so we're working on the subconscious mind, technically.
Well, let's put it this way. We're going to work on the way that your brain works. And it just so happens that it does most of that stuff invisibly.
Okay.
You know, sometimes when you say, you know, but in my past, I was a psychologist. So when you use the term unconscious mind, there's a lot of baggage with that. I just like to talk about the fact that it's the 95% of your brain that's working when you're not paying attention to it. Right. So maybe that's helpful.
Okay, and what about when you're at the seller house? Like, how will you be talking about like the clothes and stuff like that? Like how to talk to them, because directly or indirectly, your posture and like the way you talk and what you are saying makes an effect. You know.
It makes a huge effect. Yeah. I'm going to talk. You know, I'm glad you brought that up, Rick. Because in the course itself, I don't talk a lot about other people. I talk about focusing on yourself. However, the course that I'm coming out with in the future is using this interactively with other folks, and that'll be coming out within the year, so you'll have access to that. But it involves things like body posture, noticing where other people are as you talk to them. Everybody comes to you with this like a bubble in their head, and they're thinking things. And you can actually, you know, people bring their conversations to you when you're talking to them. You can watch them make pictures in their mind. You can watch them. I'll tell you, Rick, you can watch people place conversations around them. When they talk to themselves, they'll turn their head, and you can actually, if you just watch them a little bit, you can actually get in the middle of those experiences and kind of participate with them. It builds tremendous interpersonal power. This particular course, though, I just wanted to focus on individuals. But yeah, you're going in the right direction for sure.
Okay. And then my second question was, after 1 year, what happens? Like what you are offering right now, that's the 1 year. I'm just too far probably, but it's just.
At the end of the year, you can re-up. I'm sorry, I didn't say that, but you can re-up at the price that you paid for originally. We're going to hold all that. Yep, that'll hold. Which will be kind of cool because I've got I've got a lineup of things that of courses that I'm going to do. They each take a little bit of a piece of this and go a little way. That's why if you take the Nerves of Steel course, you'll get the basics down. Then we can build from there. It really becomes very fun.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Hey, Rick, thanks for your questions. I appreciate it.
Do you have anybody else that has questions? Well, I do want to mention again about the what Bill has been nice enough to offer of the half an hour free coaching with him. And you can go to the reiresources.com website, and on the home page, it has a link for you to sign up to get that coaching. So the first 10 people it's eligible for. So fill it out, and hopefully you'll be one of them and be able to get that coaching time with Bill just one-on-one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd really encourage if I could just throw this in as well, Elsie. I'd be nothing is more exciting to me than talking to people who have got real specific things they want to overcome and go. And it's a pleasure to coach you on that stuff. Again, if you've got specific real estate questions, just put real estate in parentheses behind your name, and I'll get a true real estate guru to call you. And but if it's head stuff, get your name on there. Let's talk.
And we've got a couple real estate gurus we can send you to, depending on what the questions are.
We can work that out. That'd be great, man. That'd be great. I really believe, I believe in education so much. I believe in training, and I'll just put this plug in for you, Elsie. You got some of the best stuff on the planet, and so I'm really pleased to be associated with you, and doing what I can to help people get access to that stuff.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. The REI Resources is there for everybody to get good information for. I've actually changed the pricing to where it is free for the first month and then $10 a month after that. But it has a bit of everything in there. And plus, all these monthly specialist calls and webinars are also in there. So you can always go back and review them. I will be sending out a replay of this to you tonight, to everybody on the call, and so you will get the replay of it. And is there any other questions? No questions. Okay. Well, Bill, do you have anything else?
This is, let me just say this in closing on my part. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. You can just email me if you have a question, just bill@mindrevlabs.com. I guess I should have put that up there. But, one of the things that's amazing to me is that there are so many opportunities in this world for people to make money and get the dreams that they want. They've seen themselves doing something. And for those of you who have never taken a poke at this whole real estate game, it's the best game in town, man. And I would encourage you to get in there. If you're having problems, this is such a great community of people that are willing to help. But if you're stuck in any way, just keep in mind that you're very, very close to your big breakthrough. And no matter where you are, what you're doing tonight, I'm telling you, you're close to your breakthrough. And don't stop reaching out for help. There's a lot of people out here to help you.
And we appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Is there any other questions? All right. Well, I appreciate your time tonight, Bill. It was good information, and I hope
Thanks,
it helps.
Thanks for having me on, Elsa. I appreciate it.
Not a problem, and we will be talking to you again in the near future.
Good luck. I'll look forward to it.
All right. Good night,
We'll see
everyone.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.